Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lee County Board of Commissioners to order, and appreciate everybody being here today. Again, another day. It'd be nice to have us outside. As we begin today, I'd like to call on Commissioner Odom if he would offer an invocation and lead us in the pledge, please, sir.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we come before you today in a world full of strife and turmoil. We confess that too often we throw up our hands at the problems around us and live as if nothing will ever change. Forgive our half-hearted faith, O Lord, and help us to learn to trust you and to know that prayer is our source of help. We pray today for those around us that are suffering. We pray for those in need. Lord, we pray for peace. And Lord, we pray for those who don't know you. And we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any additions or changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, we'd like to pull item D under new business.
Okay. And I guess since we're pulling that, I need to add, we'll just add it in place of D, a resolution. That's been requested of CCCC. Any other changes or additions? Okay, all those in, oh, I need a motion, sir.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. Let's see, now we've got public comments. Got Miss Terica Luxton. You got backup today, right?
I do.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Terica Luxton, and I live here in Lee County.
Ms. Luxton,
Yes, sir.
get your breath, please.
Yeah, just concentrate.
Slow down.
He may not let me.
Just get it.
Since they told us at the last meeting, this meeting would be at 4 p.m. and the vote would be done, not possibly coming up for another meeting in December. As you can see, my hands are full today. But it was important to be here. 6 p.m. is too late for us to get back home. Bradley has to be in bed by 8 for the school in Deep River near Colon. They live on Lower Moncure Road, 3.5 miles from the planned coal ash site. They also live in the Shell area and rely on well water, as over 6 Luxton generations have. I brought my grandsons so you, the BOC, could see just 2 out of 7 personal reasons I ask you to do the right thing for our county. Their sister was born this Thursday.
Oh.
We stand before you asking you to think of your family's future as well. We have asked you to protect Lee County residents, our families, and our future, and their future, by giving us this fracking moratorium. We aren't doing this for attention or entertainment. We have lives. Give Lee County some peace for Christmas. Give us a moratorium. Thanks for listening.
You're
You tell
welcome.
my,
Congratulations on your new granddaughter.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, old business. Page 18, resolution to amend Chapter 2, Article of the Lee County Smoking Ordinance. Yeah, he does. He has to put mine in the pot.
Good evening.
Hey, good
Or
evening. How are you
afternoon.
doing? Good afternoon.
So this is the second reading for this particular ordinance adjustment
Okay.
for this action. And I wanted to point out, as it states in the abstract this time, that not only are we redefining the tobacco products definition to include vaping e-cigarettes, but also there is a statement on here that's saying that this would also include public property, I mean, county property
Right.
in the resolution. So that would include parks and things like that.
It would include any property owned by the county, which would be all the parks, any property on Greenway that's owned by the county,
Buildings.
buildings.
And I've spoken to, well, our health promotions person spoke to someone in Durham County where they've done this, and as far as enforcement, they don't, right now, they're just handing out cards with the quit line. It's
Mhm.
that helps you to stop smoking on one side, and then a statement about the, the prohibition of smoking on county property there, so we could do something similar to that if we needed to. And one thing that's not clearly stated on the cover sheet of the abstract is that also county manager has in this proclamation the ability to assign, for instance, a smoking area. He can designate areas on county property where smoking is allowed. So that's also something everyone should know.
All right. Any questions or discussion?
If he should designate a spot, would that be for just staff or the general public as well?
It could be for either one, I suppose. We have
Or
some.
both?
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at.
Mm.
All right.
I know that's one of the, and in trying to talk to citizens, especially at the parks, and that camp, there's some concern that if they're outside, what's the problem? And,
Some people really don't like to smell secondhand smoke.
I understand completely.
I heard employees say that walking up after work every day, going up the parking lot, if there's somebody's in front of them, they've lit up as soon as they hit the parking lot, they're in their draft, all the way up to their car,
Right.
and they're breathing secondhand smoke. So
Right.
Does the same thing happen when they go to the mall?
I think they probably so.
Probably so.
Mhm.
Or outside the movie theater.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
I will say that since they stopped allowing smoking in restaurants, the incidence of strokes has gone down quite a bit. Somehow secondhand smoke triggers strokes in certain people, so it does have some health benefits.
well, they're not eating the bacon red meat or something.
Mhm.
Combination of the
Right.
two. Oh, well, okay, yes, everything in moderation. So, by my reading, and correct me, if do we have to direct the manager about specific places? This is his discretion, correct? In paragraph C, section 252? That's the way I read it.
That's correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
on page 20, for those of you. All right. Any more questions or discussion?
Just a question, Madam Chair, regarding the smokers that are employees. Do we pay an additional cost for their health care, health insurance, because of their tobacco usage?
Not because they are tobacco users, no, sir. It's not part of the survey Blue Cross Blue Shield asks us
Today.
We are, our office is required to ask patients if they smoke. And if they do, then we have to counsel them on cessation classes, and we have to document that. Today.
Is that your office or all doctors' offices?
That's all doctors' offices. Now, depending on what type of specialty you are, you may have even further questions thereafter, but we're supposed to ask about drug use, and that's mandatory. Government wants to know today. What they do with it tomorrow, I don't know.
Good check.
With the manager's discretion, so, have you all talked about how that comes about? Should the smoking employees make a request that they do it through you or directly to him? How does that work?
Well, the employees really already have designated smoking areas. Outside, there's one just on the side of the building over here.
Okay, I don't smoke that, and I'm not over here, so I'm trying to figure out. So we already have designated spots
Yes.
that the employees and the public can go to.
The public just can go in their car, I guess, or, you know, out on the street.
Really not working.
Yeah, the biggest issue is at the courthouse.
Mhm.
So
I guess what you're
we
saying,
have to have,
not aware of a place that you got set
Right.
aside.
you have to have an area at the
They don't have
courthouse.
one, is what he's saying.
Well, the
So you have
public
one
has, up to this point, hasn't had an issue. They just put their cigarettes out before they come into the building.
Okay,
We have ashtrays at the front door out here, or an ashtray.
But
And that's
in
really,
essence, they would be in violation of this ordinance if they were smoking from their car to the front of the building,
Mhm.
because they're going through county property.
Mhm.
so it would seem to me that we'd at least want them to know there's a designated place for smoking if they have to have a smoke.
Right. We could post that, like on our, in our waiting area, we could say the smoking area is located on the west end of the building, or the west side of the building between where the picnic tables are, and they can go out there, and if they see the picnic tables, then they can go there and have their smoke. So we can set up a sign that says that.
Is that on concrete pad, or hopefully no straw or anything like that?
Oh,
It's a grassed area
it's a grassed area.
when the grass grows, otherwise it's just
It
dirt.
sounds facetious, but.
No, it's not a.
Black Smoke, Smith
fire.
Klein had an area
Mhm.
near their mulch bed.
Right. And it
Cost
can
them 20
smolder.
grand.
and then-
It didn't work out too well.
Cost 20 grand
Mhm.
I think it's in D or in C of this 253, section 253,
Mhm.
and it says anyone found responsible for infraction as a result of a violation of the ordinance shall
There's a typo
for
there.
pay a
And
penalty
Mhm.
for $50.
Right.
And is there no warning prior to that?
Well, as I'd mentioned, we can give out cards that say that, you know, that there is no smoking on county property, and on the back it has the reference to the quit line. It's the North Carolina system that helps people quit smoking. It's free, and we could give that to them the first time. But if they're, you know, being they're just disobeying purposefully and being disrespectful about it, or, you know.
So you do get a warning, what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Certainly, we would. Maybe
Okay.
several warnings before
okay.
something
Right.
became a real issue, though, when they were walking into the building and,
Well,
you know, refusing.
But you say it may be more than one, but I think the policy or whatever you put in place should.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, it would. Okay.
And
At
the
lea-
$50 actually comes from state statute.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, if we're gonna be handing out cards of warning, and you know how some people would react, they'll take it, throw it on the ground. You probably wanna put a clause on there on littering also.
That's a good
That's a
point.
good idea.
That is a good point, Kirk. Yep. Well, you know, I've, since this has come up, you know, when I've been over here, I've kind of tried to watch, and it doesn't seem to be that much of an issue around this building.
Mhm.
You know, I was also looking at the parks, you know, the parking lots at some of the parks and stuff, you know, I see a little bit more, with that could be a problem unless.
And it's the county board's discretion if
Right.
you want us to take out the parks or the greenway, that type of thing, we can do that.
The,
Now, the greenway, doesn't it cross city property as well? Has the city got an ordinance on that, or is this gonna be countywide?
This is just for city-owned property.
county,
I mean, excuse me, county,
Yeah.
sorry, just for county-owned property, excuse me.
Okay.
And it would pretty much, the greenway would be confined to Kiwanis Park. That is where we own. The rest of the greenway is owned by the city.
So, a smoking table on the city side.
They can just go in the Roses parking lot, you know, which is what they do.
People actually smoking off ones, kind of.
Counterintuitive, isn't it? Yeah, I
It
agree.
helps them inhale it faster.
Are we gonna also include chewing tobacco and dipping tobacco?
tobacco
That's-
products.
Mhm,
That
and
includes
definition.
it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All
And maybe.
right. So I see it there.
That was included before. The only part that changed in the definition of tobacco products was to add the vapor products.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, I would move we go ahead and approve the policy and leave it up to the director and the manager to figure out how we
The
address it.
parameters,
Yeah.
okay. All right, got a motion on the floor. Any more discussion or debate? Questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And B County thanks you too.
Thank you. Okay, item B, under old business, the appointment to Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Ms. Lee? C? Right. Oh, yes, yes. Would you like me to do? Let's go ahead and do this appointment, and then we'll do that as new business. If that's okay with the board.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we're still on track to hear everything with juvenile?
Yes, sir. Page 26.
Madam Chair, fellow commissioners, I'm bringing to you today an application for an appointment to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. This lady, the appointment has to come from a member of the Area Mental Health, Development Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Authority. So the Sand Hill Center makes that appointment. The lady that they are recommending lives in Randolph County. This is part of her job. I think she said she goes to like 6 different counties and serves on all of their JCPC boards. So I am asking you to waive your board policy to allow her to serve and approve her appointment.
Madam Chair, I move to waive the policy in regards to this position.
Madam Chair, I'd like to see us put that on hold for 30 days, and let's see if we can find someone who resides in the county.
There isn't anyone, Mr. Odom. We've already checked.
Have-
We-
That works for the mental health.
Yeah, on the JCPC, it's typical that we've had somebody, because it's a regional.
Outside the county, that lives outside the county?
Mhm.
Who was the person that had been serving with Were they within the county or outside the county?
No, sir, they also lived in Randolph County, and she'd been on the board for many, many years, yes, several years. She took a job somewhere
I
else.
just don't like to see people on boards that doesn't reside in the county, but in this case, if we need to do this, I'm fine with it.
I think it's just more, you know, of the regional aspect that we're dealing
I'm
with.
fine with it,
too,
Madam Chair,
Okay,
if that's what you want to do.
okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Any more discussion or questions?
The motion is to waive the requirement.
Oh, I'm sorry, right, okay. Okay, all those in favor of waiving the requirement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Madam
Motion.
Chair, I move to accept Lori Perez as the Sand Hill Center representative on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council.
Okay, any discussion or further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. With the board permission, we'll revisit item C under the consent agenda since it's been approved. Okay. I'd like to read this resolution. If Ms. Conlon wants to stand with her. We weren't sure if you were going to be here today. The Lee County Board of Commissioners resolution honoring Susan Conlon. Whereas Susan Conlon was employed by North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Lee County Center in July 1985 as the home demonstration agent. And whereas she was appointed the 11th Lee County Extension Director in September 2002. And whereas she has demonstrated a deep commitment to her job and Lee County residents. And whereas her commitment to cooperative extension is exemplified by her outstanding leadership in various programs throughout the years. And whereas she will retire from North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Lee County Center on November 30th, 2015 with 30 years of service. And whereas the Lee County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize and acknowledge the dedication and loyal service she has given to the residents of Lee County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners for Lee County, North Carolina, that it congratulates Susan Conlon for a career of public service that has been characterized by a genuine interest in and concern for Lee County families, and that it wishes her continued successes in all her future endeavors. Adopted and presented the 16th day of November, 2015. Thank you very much.
Speech, please.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and I have enjoyed working for Lee County and the folks here, and we'll miss all the folks, but I still live here. And I will volunteer, and I will be around.
Thank you very much, Susan. I know we couldn't list all of the things that you've done to help Lee County in the resolution. It was hard to put it all on one page, but thank you again. Moving on to new business. A presentation from Davenport and Company on potential refinancing of 2006 certificates of participation. Mr. Ted Cole. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you all?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I think you maybe have a memo that was in your board packet. I have extras here if anybody needs an extra. Anybody's got it? Okay. Thank you. What's on the screen is towards the second half of the memo. I might cover a couple points and then go through what's on the screen there. But again, I'm Ted Cole with Davenport. We serve as financial advisor to the county, and we have for a number of years sort of assisting with capital planning and debt financing and things of that nature. And what I wanted to speak with you all this afternoon about is a potential refinancing opportunity for some debt that you've issued in the past. We did something very similar to this in 2012. So if you have the memo in front of you, I might just talk off the first page, which is a little bit of background. And in particular, what we're talking about are bonds or certificates of participation that were issued in 2006. And they funded a number of different projects: a new middle school, multi-purpose room at the Floyd L. Knight School, 26-acre Tramway Road Park, some repairs at Central Carolina Community College. It was kind of a whole basket of different projects that we rolled in together. Those 2006 certificates that are outstanding today are secured on a parity basis, meaning on an equal basis with some other debt you have outstanding that we issued in 2012. And all of those obligations, the 06s and the 12s, are secured together by the Southern Lee High School and the Sand Lee Middle School. Those two facilities serve as collateral for those loans. The debt is owned by different institutions and individuals, but that's typical in that type of market. Those 2006 certificates, or what we call COPs, the people that bought those bonds were guaranteed to have those bonds. They could not be taken away from them until April 1 of 2017. So whoever owns those has the right to those bonds and the interest payments that are due on those bonds between now and April 1 of 2017. And so what I'm talking to you about is something that we call an advance refunding, where we actually go out and solicit funding proposals today for, and if we get proposals back that are attractive, we would actually take that money from the new lender and we would deposit it into an escrow account, and that escrow account would be sized to the penny and dedicated exclusively to make the payments on the 06 bonds until April 1 of 2017. So it's called an advance refunding. And you're going to see the cash flows here in a moment. But as soon as that escrow is funded with the new loan, those 06 COPs are defeased. They're legally defeased. You no longer, as a county, have to make those payments because the payments are made exclusively out of that escrow, and that escrow is invested in U.S. Treasury securities. So the bondholders have that security on top of, they continue to be secured on a parity basis with these schools. So we're talking about an advance refunding, and I'll show you the cash flows here in a moment, trying to take advantage of lower interest rates. One thing I will tell you, we're not looking at extending the debt or shortening the debt. We're looking at keeping the debt on the exact same payment dates so that the savings are truly recognized from lower interest rates. At the bottom of page 1, we've given you a look back over an index that tracks pretty closely to this debt. It's called the Bond Buyer 20 Bond Index. It goes back to 1990. You can see over the history that this index has been as high as 7.5%, as low as maybe 3.25%. On average, it's been a little over 5%. That's that green line, horizontal line. The gold line represents where we are today. So on a historical look back, we are still at very low, historically low interest rates, which is what's creating this opportunity, plus the fact that these 06 bonds, which were originally about 22 years of maturity, have had almost 6 to 16, almost 10 years run now, right? There's about 12 years left to run. So while rates are low, we have also seen here in the near term, there's been some volatility in municipal interest rates off of different news that you're reading about domestically, internationally. And so while rates are low, and you'll understand why I'm emphasizing this, they have been volatile. If you look at the top of page 2, estimated debt service savings, in the current interest rate environment, what we've estimated is that by affecting this refunding, going out and selling a new certificate of participation, we would call it the 2016. It's not going to happen in this calendar year. It would happen in the next calendar year. Taking that money at current interest rates and paying off the 06s. We're seeing gross savings there towards the top half of page 2 at about $1.48 million. On a present value basis, discounted back to today's dollars, it's about 1.2 million, or about 6.5% of the debt that we're refunding. And when we get to this section on the board, I'm going to go through that in a little more detail so you can understand what I'm talking about a little bit more clearly with it in front of you. On average, the savings are about $114,000 per year. That would be a real reduction in your annual debt service for this particular obligation. And then there's a concept in this type of transaction called negative arbitrage. And again, if you just put that to the side for a moment, there's a slide that's coming up that I think will be helpful for you all to visualize that a little bit better. But at a high level, that's the savings that we're talking about. At the bottom of page 2, we identify 2 potential options on how you might affect this refunding. Lee County historically and many counties across North Carolina have tapped into both what we call the public bond market, where you sell these bonds or these certificates, and any number of different investors, whether it's individuals or institutions, buy bonds and invest in your bonds. That's a public sale option. But we also have an option of going and doing what we call a direct bank loan, where we place the entire bond with one institutional buyer like a bank. As I said, Lee County has done both. Many counties have done both. In fact, in 2012, when we did the refunding of the 04s, so you issued COPs in 04, we refunded those in 2012. What we're talking about doing this evening is very similar to that, except it's the 06s that might be refunded in 2016. We did the bank loan option, where we went out and solicited bids from banks, got firm funding commitments back that were locked in, but we as a county were not obligated to accept them. If the rate wasn't attractive or there were other terms and conditions that didn't suit us, you were not under any obligation to accept any of those bank bids. So you almost get a free look at the market. And what you're going to see as part of our recommendation is that direct bank loan option, we believe, would be a good option for you all here, because it allows you in a fairly short order, without any obligation, to go out and get bids from banks, assess the refunding opportunity with real bids in hand, and then make a decision about whether or not you'd like to move forward. Again, I've talked about the volatility in the market. It's always very interesting, and you can see this a little bit at the top of page 3. We talk about it. We send out solicitations to banks all the time on behalf of local governments, and it's always interesting to see what comes back from 2 very sophisticated institutions that you would think, did all of their research and their credit analysis on the exact same loan, and they come back and one might be at 3% and one might be at 3.5%, a really big range. But be that as it may, that's typically how the bank funding market works, is you have different banks that look at these differently. Everything may be exactly the same, but they have 2 different interest rates, and sometimes those interest rates are pretty far apart. And my point in mentioning all of that is we can give you an estimate of where we think the banks would be based on other RFPs that we've done and what we've seen in the market, but you're never quite sure what Lee County is going to get for the 06 refunding here until you ask for it, and you do that through a process. And that's what we're proposing, is to move forward with a bank process where we would put together an RFP. We would put it out for about 2 or 3 weeks. That's a typical time frame. We would interface with all the potential bidders, answer their questions, they do their due diligence, and on a day and time specific, we would bring those bids back. They would be firm. We'd assess them, and working with your staff, determine if any of them rose to the level that we would want to bring back to you all for consideration. And if we were to do that, we would be talking about actual savings, locked in savings, if you will, that we're no longer estimating the market. So our refunding approach here on page 3 does just that, is presenting this opportunity to you all this evening for consideration, discussion, what have you. If it's your desire to go forward with a bank RFP process, you'd be able to direct us to do that. Again, you don't incur any costs or obligations unless when those bids come back, you decide there's one that you'd like to pursue. So again, you really do have a free look at what the banks are willing to do. And when those bids come back, if we have a bid that is attractive, the savings are such that you think it's worthwhile to move forward, essentially through December into January, we would kind of take this through its normal course of approvals, both at the county level with the local government commission, with working with your county attorney and your bond attorney to get it documented. And if all of this were to come together mid-January, you could be in a position to close the loan, and and it would be done. So that's sort of at a very big picture, the opportunity, what the debt is that we're talking about, the general approach. I did want to go into some of the mechanics of the savings, but if there's a question on anything I've covered, I'd be happy to try to answer that.
Is there a threshold on the debt that, or on the savings that you would normally target for a loan of this size?
There is. There's a couple of different ways to look at that. So that's a perfect segue here to, I think, where I point.
If I could
To
ask
Lisa
a question-
Minter.
If I could ask a question, who instigated bringing this forward?
They brought it to us.
Okay, thank you very
Lisa and
much.
I took a look at it.
Thank you.
And they 2 years ago they brought one to us, but the savings weren't. We kind of think that once it hits 100,000 or more, it's worth bringing it to the board, and knowing that there was 12 years or left here, that we felt it was a good time. So
Yeah, we had worked with the county to put the 04s and the 06s into place, and it's one of those things that we monitor, and there we go. Thank you.
Ted, real quick before you go into this, I had a question earlier about what's the difference between the GO bonds and COPS, and so in your term, in your words, could you explain to the board
Yes.
kind of what we're doing between
Sure.
GO bonds and COPS?
The general obligations bonds, if those are outstanding or you wanted to issue those, that would have gone to referendum. The county voters would have voted on that, and if approved, you would issue those for whatever the purpose was. Those bonds, general obligation bonds, aren't actually secured by an asset. There's not a building that secures it. It's secured by the full faith and credit of Lee County. So it's the best credit, if you will, that any local government can offer, because you would be required by law, if you couldn't make the payment, to raise taxes to make the payment. So that's one way to fund capital projects. Another common way of issuing bonds in North Carolina is what we call certificates of participation. Today they're called limited obligation bonds. It's essentially the same thing. They are what we call generically installment purchase contracts. That is debt that is secured by some asset, and in this case it's the schools, and the debt service on the bond is payable annually and subject to appropriation. So technically, you all as a board, as you're doing your budget, could take action to remove these COPS debt service from your budget. You have to take an action to move it out, and if you were to do that, then the bondholders would collectively be able to take over control of whatever the asset is that is securing the loan. So kind of both ways you get to the same place, and that is you're funding capital, but two sort of major differences. One is voted, one is simply you're required to hold a public hearing, and there's an actual asset at risk, if you will, or securing these COPS or these limited obligation bonds. Okay? What's on this page, and if you're looking at the landscape, it's page 1, you'll notice it says public sale in the upper left corner. That's the other way that you could issue this refunding. I talked about the bank loans where we go out and solicit bank bids and we bring those bids back. One of the other ways that you could do this is to issue these bonds in the public market. That's about a 90-day process. Bond ratings are required. There's a number of documents that are required. In fact, that's the process you went through in 2006 when these COPS were issued, because you needed 20 or 22-year terms. The bank market wasn't really conducive to getting attractive interest rates over 20 or 22 years, so we went to the public markets. As I said, it's about a 90-day process. You don't actually lock the interest rate until about day 60 of the 90 days. So you're 2/3 in, you've developed documents, you've done bond ratings, you've potentially incurred some costs before you're able to lock the interest rates in. But what I will tell you is that public market is very transparent. On any given day, we can estimate where the savings would be or where your interest rates would be in the public market, because it's a very large market. It's a lot of transparency to it. We look at what bonds buy and sell at, and we're able to put interest rate estimates together that we feel very, very good about. And so when we ran this analysis for the county, we did it under the public market approach because, again, unlike the bank, where it's very difficult to see or judge where one bank might come in with an interest rate versus another, we're able to do that here. And so at a high level, what we're talking about refunding is about $20 million of this debt outstanding. These bonds currently have interest rates ranging between 4% and 5%. The current bondholders have the right to hold these bonds, meaning they can't be taken from those bondholders until April 1 of 17. That's what we call the call date. They are prepayable at par. 100% is par, meaning there's no penalty. They just get their principal back and accrued interest, no penalty. We're looking at refunding the bonds that mature from April 1 of 18 to 28. Again, not extending the debt, not shortening it. In the public markets, we would be issuing about $17.8 million of bonds to do all of this with a final maturity of 2028. And our estimated interest rate from the public markets is about a 2.73. Again, we feel pretty good about that rate because of the way that market functions. If you were to do all of that, now keep in mind that's today's rate, you would be 60 days out from being able to lock in the rate, and that's sort of where the unknown is do you get this process cranked up, do those documents, do the ratings, and what kind of risk do you have that interest rates might move higher and erode the opportunity. But if you were able to get today's interest rates, the savings, I've quoted these already, $1,485,000, on a present value basis, $1.2 million, and on a present value percentage, we're talking about savings as a percent of the bonds we're refunding equal to about 6.5%. And to your question, Mr. Sloan, general rule of thumb on this type of transaction, the local government commission would look to, are you achieving at least 3% savings? That's kind of a minimum level, so you're a multiple of that. So that's really the only true empirical test of saying, you know, is this a refunding that you'd like to take on? So you've clearly you're over that hurdle. The other thing that I think is important, I mentioned it earlier, it's called the negative arbitrage. And this is a function. Remember, we're closing a refunding in, let's just call it January of 16. We close on the bonds and we get the $20 million. We take that $20 million and we deposit it into an escrow account. And that escrow account is invested in U.S. Treasuries. By law, it has to be U.S. Treasuries. Can't be anything else. And that escrow is dedicated to make the payments on these bonds until April 1 of 17. The folks that bought those bonds are entitled to those payments until then. And then on April 1 of 17, we take everything out that's outstanding. Your escrow, by our bond math, which is a very specific methodology of calculating something we call the arbitrage yield, it establishes the maximum interest rate that escrow can earn legally. And it's capped at 2.63% in your case, in this case. The reality is, because it has to be invested in U.S. Treasuries and U.S. Treasury rates are so low, we can only earn about 0.5% in that escrow. So the escrow is not as efficient as it legally could be, and that's because U.S. Treasuries aren't yielding enough to get you up to that max level. And so the escrow is inefficient to the tune of about $450,000. Stated another way, if you could earn the $263 in the escrow, you could get an extra $450,000 of savings. But you can't. It's not available. It's not out there. And so the only way to mitigate that is to delay the transaction until you get closer to April 1 of 17. That escrow gets shorter and shorter, and so that that mismatch of your earnings rate becomes less and less of a factor because the escrow is shorter. But the risk there is what risk do you have that your interest rates will start to go up while you're waiting for that escrow to get shorter? So that's the concept of negative arbitrage. It is not a payment that you make, but it is more of an opportunity cost because your escrow is not as efficient as it legally could be. So when we talk about savings of $1,485,000, that accounts for this.
That's taking that in.
That is taking that into consideration. In a perfect world, if you could somehow earn up to a 263, you would add the 458 over here.
Okay.
You'd make $1.9 million. But again, that doesn't exist. So these are actual savings. These are budgetary savings every year compared to where you're paying debt service now. You would see these reductions. You'll see it kind of ramps up for the first 2 years, and then it's levelized at about $130,000 a year. So that is the public sale, all right? And I feel very, very comfortable showing you that's where that market is. I want to go to the next page. Okay. We've just done a little sensitivity for you here, still talking about this refunding on the public sale. And so we've got the current market. That's the numbers I just walked through with you. And I wanted to give you some perspective that if interest rates went up by 10 basis points, so we had assumed on the prior page that you got an interest rate of a 272. So if they went up to a 282, your savings would go down to about $1.3 million. And your PV savings would be about 5.8%. By the same token, if interest rates went down is better, your savings would go up to about $1.6 million. So we've just done a sensitivity analysis, 272 plus or minus 10 basis points. How does that change the savings? So you can get a sense of that. And then the last data point we did here is we said, what if you just waited until April 1 of 17 to do this refunding? At that point, there's no need for an escrow, right? Because you're doing the transaction on the day that the bonds can be redeemed. So there is no escrow, there is no negative arbitrage. And essentially what we've solved for here is how much of an increase in interest rates could you withstand between now and April of 2017 and break even to your opportunity. You could withstand about 60 basis point increase in interest rates. And if rates moved higher than that, you would have been better off doing the transaction now. If rates didn't move that high, you would be better off by waiting. And that's the unknown, is sort of what are rates going to do between now and April 1 of 17 in this case. We've got a slide that talks a little bit about rates. I've alluded to it. We are at historical lows. We've seen a lot of volatility. I think there's a general perception out there, or a general belief out there, that rates are going to be going up. How quickly, when does that start, is really the key question. And whether or not this level of savings today is worth locking in or waiting out till closer to 2017 makes sense to see what rates do and how savings evolve. Before you answer any of those questions, let me show you one last slide, which is kind of gets to our recommendation, which is on page 3. It's the exact setup you saw on page 1, but what we've done here is we've solved for the bank rate that we would need to get in order to match that public sale that I showed you on page 1. So remember, I told you the public market, we feel very good about sort of identifying where rates are on any given day. The bank rates are a little more difficult to do. So what we've said is, if the public sale we can measure for you very accurately, let's solve for what bank rate we would need to get in order to achieve the same level of savings as would be available in the public market today. And that would be, it's a slightly less expensive transaction to effect. There's less moving parts, less costs. And as a result, what you're going to see is you can actually get the same level of savings with a bank rate of a 274. Based on what we've seen on other types of transactions, and I'll tell you sort of our perspective on this, what this potential transaction has going for it is It is a little bit on the larger side. It's about 20 million, which cuts both ways. You have some smaller banks that simply can't lend to any one institution that amount of money, but we offer banks the ability to group up and pitch this as a collective syndicate. But there are some larger banks that like the larger par amount, the 20 million. It's got 12 years to run, so we're only talking about a fixed rate for 12 years. A lot of banks will consider going out 15 years, but not beyond 15 years. So you're inside of 15 years, which I think is a good thing. And you've got excellent collateral, not only in terms of the value of the collateral, but the purpose and the essentiality to different schools. So the point there being that they know that, one, you've been paying on this loan since '06 without any interruption, and two, you wouldn't be in a position of not paying on it and jeopardizing the use of two key school facilities. So what we would recommend moving forward with is a bank RFP process. We would be in a position to come back to you in December with real bank bids in hand, see how what we received, how that compares to that 274, rerun these numbers for you with real rates, and show you what the savings would be, tell you exactly what you would need to do to make that happen. Again, it would be probably mid-January if everything were to come together where you would close it. But you would know when we're back in December what the rates are. They're no longer floating with the market. And if for whatever reason you decide that it isn't something you want to move forward with, you put those bank proposals to the side, you have an opportunity to revisit it down the road. So you truly have a free look at what those banks will do. And then we'll be able to show you as well what that public market approach looks like. And again, you'll potentially have a bank bid in hand. You'll be able to see what the public markets could give you if you were willing to go forward with that 60-day process, 60 to 90 days. And make a more informed decision at that point. So with that, can I help answer any questions? Or I know it's a lot of information, a lot of moving parts to this.
We're recommending based on what we see, the Fed doing and some other things that might affect interest rates, that we go ahead and authorize Davenport to seek bids through the bank placement procedure.
Never hurts to seek bids, but how often does the Fed rate change? They meet a couple times a year?
They meet roughly every 6 weeks, every other month. They have not raised rates since 2008. And what they've been grappling with for the last several months is that first rate from essentially 0 to 25 basis points. Depending on what you look at between domestic economic news, whether it's jobs, housing, and such, there is an increased level of an increased probability, or I guess estimates from people that they poll, that they will do something at their December meeting. The Fed will do something with that rate in December, which is like December 16th. If that doesn't happen in December, I think their next meeting is in February.
Mr. Crumpton, would you follow through with your recommendation?
Want me to say it again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before you say it, let me
Yes,
ask
sir.
you this question. On page 31, I guess this is your recommendation that we do the dual track. Okay. And you opting to go with just the bank?
That authorizes them to distribute the RFP to the local, regional, national banks.
Right, and the dual track element is that if you hold a public hearing or certain other preliminary actions, those actions you'd be able to use those actions for either a bank financing or a public
Right.
sale. So the first step in that would be get the RFP out, get the bank bids in, and assess what we have, and then if it warrants, you could move forward with a bank transaction. If it doesn't, you could consider moving forward with that public sale.
And you're opting to do something different.
Actually, I'm just opting for them to do the first step, which is the November 17th step.
The RFP.
And, yes, sir.
Why is
It's
it
going-
two par refund? I'm sorry.
It wouldn't affect the dual track the way I worded it.
There's no obligation.
Save the county some money.
What's the difference between the two par refund amounts?
Right, on the public sale, it's 18.98, and on the private placement, it's 21.6. The difference is, when these bonds were sold in 2006, they had bond insurance put on them, which was a fairly common way to market the bonds. So if Lee County's rating was AA, you could buy insurance that would make those bonds AAA. And that's what happened. That's what we did in 2006. So in the public,
Helps lower the interest rate overall.
that's right. That's right. And so in the public sale approach, we're actually taking out a few less of the maturities than what we're thinking we would take out in the bank side. That's why the par amount's different, because of the insurance.
Yeah.
I probably need to clarify what I said. I was going back to the first step of the process, which is to take the bank bids. And then when we receive those back in early December, we'll do analysis to just see where we are. You know, if they come back, you know, better than projected here, you know, obviously we're gonna say, you know, we need to go ahead and move forward. If they don't come back well, you know, we're into the process and we can do the public placement.
So I'm sorry, I just did
Okay.
this wrapping my head around this. So you're assuming that we're gonna have to get some insurance just to keep that rate lower to be.
No, I'm sorry. We're assuming that in the public sale, you take out only the 18 through 28 maturities.
Okay.
Whereas in the bank transaction, we're assuming you actually take out the 16s through the 28s, because we're taking a little more out in the bank transaction because we're trying to get rid of that bond insurer in that bank transaction.
The manager's cleared up my concern. I just,
Madam Chair, I move to recommend the financing and authorize the staff to bring back the bid process.
I don't think that hurts. Information never hurts, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, got a
Thank you.
motion on the floor. Any more questions or discussion?
What is a typical banknote closing on this usually run percentage-wise, do you know?
We have assumed in here it's an all-in flat fee of $135,000.
Flat fee? Thank you.
All in.
Again, I'd like to commend them for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hopefully
care.
we'll see you in December with great news.
With good news, I hope so.
Thank you. All righty.
I'm sorry, I understood. No, sir, I understood. I was worried I confused everybody. I was just going with the first step. I'm just
Okay.
going with the dual option. Sorry.
Okay, item B, under new business, page 38 and 39, a proclamation and presentation for Farm City Week. Mr. Bill Stone and Ms. Alyssa Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. Appreciate you having me here today. I'm here on behalf of Cooperative Extension and Lee County 4-H as we prepare to celebrate Farm City Week coming up during Thanksgiving week. Of course, as many of you are familiar, Farm City is the celebration of the rural and urban partnership in our community. And today, I've got a special guest that I brought with me. I have Alyssa Neal, who is one of my 4-H members. She's a member of our Rocking Riders 4-H Club, and she's also our 4-H County Council President, as well as being a member of the Lee County FFA. And her mom, Tanya Neal, is also here to support her. And I'd like to ask Alyssa to come up and talk a little bit about agriculture in her life and the importance of it, and also invite you to a couple of our special Farm City Week events.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon, Ms. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Commissioners. I'm Alyssa Neal. I'm a current senior at Lee County High School. I am very involved with the Lee County 4-H. I'm the president of our local club, the Rockin' Riders. I'm also the president of the County Council, I attend many retreats and workshops, as well as compete in horse shows and public speaking events. Along with the 4-H, I'm also involved with the Lee Senior FFA chapter. I'm the current secretary of our school's chapter and have been the secretary of the federation in the past years. I compete in poultry judging, land judging, farm business management, parliamentary procedure, and agriculture mechanics competitions. Through these two organizations, I have learned how to speak effectively, be a leader, organize groups of people, how to hold business meetings, and to challenge myself. I have also learned how to weld, classify soil, and to tell lots of information about chickens and eggs. These events and experiences has helped me decide what I want to be in the agriculture field. When I grow up, I want to have a career in poultry science. I plan on attending North Carolina State University to receive a bachelor's degree in poultry science, then continue on to get my master's in the poultry science field, of course. Right now, I'm trying to figure out if I want to own a farm, sell equipment, or work in a lab. I owe a lot of credit to Bill Stone for allowing me the opportunity to raise chickens at the county fair. Along with Mr. Stone and North Carolina State University, I have also had the opportunity to raise turkeys at the state fair. Although this is not possible this year due to the avian or bird flu, I have learned a great deal about what poultry farmers deal with, even though it's on a lot smaller scale. I would like to thank my FFA advisor, Wesley Fall, for forcing me to be a part of the poultry science team 3 years ago. At first, I was super hesitant in being on the team, but once I got started learning about chickens, I was hooked. Mr. Stone and Mr. Fall have opened many doors for me, allowing me to meet many professors at North Carolina State University, and now I feel confident that this is the path that I need to pursue. Agriculture is and will always be a big part of my life. We would like to invite you guys out to the Farm City Week banquet Monday night on the 23rd of November at the McSwain Center in the Farm Bureau Auditorium. There is a social being held at 5:30 and the banquet will start at 6. We also the next morning at 8 a.m. at the McSwain Center are doing a farm tour. That's on the 24th. We'd like to see you guys there. Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa. And you might want to talk to Commissioner Sloan some about the poultry science deal. He'd be a wealth of information.
That's actually what my degree is in.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. All right. Looking forward to that. It's always one of the best events, I think, that we have.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion to accept the proclamation. Any discussions or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Neal family. Okay, item C, appointment of Danielle Mahoney as Deputy Clerk to the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Crumpton.
Yes, ma'am. As you remember, our previous intern fellow spent some time as a deputy clerk as well, Michael. And so it is now time for Danielle to have that same experience. And after speaking with Ms. Lee and myself, we decided that it'd be good to just go ahead and put that designation on her as long as she's our intern fellow. That way, if Gaynell has to be out, we have a ready deputy. So we're making that recommendation.
Okay.
I move that we appoint Danielle Mahoney as Deputy Clerk to the Board,
Okay.
as stated.
Any discussion or questions?
Danielle, the last person that held that got a job right after that. All right.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Best wishes.
She'll be our clerk at the next meeting.
Yes, yes. All right. Okay. We substituted a new item D. We were asked by Central Carolina Community College to issue this proclamation along with the city, and I will read it now. It's the Lee County Board of Commissioners proclamation declaring December 1st, 2015 as Oscar Keller Day. whereas Oscar Keller moved to Lee County as a child and since that time has made his home in Lee County, raised his family here, and built a legacy of service to the community. And whereas, in addition to Mr. Keller's contributions to Lee County in healthcare, banking, and transportation, he also played an integral role as a benefactor and supporter during the establishment of Central Carolina Community College. And whereas, in 1988, Keller gave the first monetary gift to the Central Carolina Community College Foundation and further served the college as a founding board member of the foundation. And whereas, since that time, Mr. Keller has continued to provide financial support to the foundation through gifts in his family's endowment, the Central Carolina Works campaign, the Have a Seat campaign, and to other various college needs. And whereas, in addition to financial contributions, Mr. Keller also supports the college through his tireless promotion of its educational opportunities for Lee County residents. And whereas, as a pioneer in the healthcare industry, Mr. Keller took every opportunity to extend his service to the college by employing Central Carolina Community College nursing graduates. Now therefore be it resolved that the Lee County Board of Commissioners does hereby recognize Mr. Oscar Keller for his service to Lee County and Central Carolina Community College. Be it further resolved that the first day of December 2015 will be recognized as Oscar Keller Day in Lee County, North Carolina, adopted this 16th day of November 2015. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. All right, item E, budget amendment. Ms. Minter.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
On page 44, you have the amendment to be considered tonight. This amendment is to appropriate funds that you've recently approved for the health department in the total. I don't have the total. You appropriated an additional amount for chemical disease of $2,000 and bioterrorism money was $10,000. There's also some money that was left over from the previous year for emergency service that was received late in the year and they were not able to spend it in a total of $1,104 and they're asking that be rolled over into this year to be used.
Okay, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And then you want to just hang around for the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, monthly financial report.
On page 46 of your agenda package, you'll start the monthly financial report for the month of October 2015. As you will see, and I'm asked to remind you again that our sales tax runs 3 months behind, so don't be alarmed by our low numbers there. Tax collection percentages this year compared to last year, we're running about 1.12% behind the same period last year. Again, I'm attributing that probably just to timing of payments at this point. This early on, we don't get alarmed with that small differential, but we will continue to monitor it. In reviewing expenditures, we are looking at a target of 33.33%. We still have a few departments that are running over. Governing body is due mainly to your dues that are paid up front in the year. Finance is due to audit fees. IT is mostly due to annual maintenance contracts and equipment purchases and insurance premiums. Senior services, as I explained last month, is running ahead because of the large vans that came in and we had to make a large payment outstanding on that. I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have on the financial report before I move into sales tax. If not, on page 49 of your package begins the sales tax portion. As you can see, we had another really good month of collections for the month of August. And I apologize, I just realized that the report still shows 2014 and 15. I will correct that. I copied the schedule from year to year and I forgot to change the years. So again, our numbers, our total distribution was $979,000. So we are above our target for the year so far. We are seeing a growth, if you go to page 50, of approximately an overall growth of 8 to 9%, and countywide we're seeing about 11%. That would include what the city is receiving on page 51. we budgeted anywhere somewhere between 4 and 5% growth. And like I said last month, I'm waiting to see if this balances out some whenever we've had some of the stores opened for a year. So some of that could just be skewed because of the new stores. But we're happy to see it and hope it will continue.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Mentor?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for more good news. Okay. The update on the Colon Road water testing?
Yes, ma'am. We have received 11 requests for testing now and have conducted 7. So Heath is here. We did not receive any recent letters, so that may have been the same. I don't think that was the same number reported last time, but I know that the staff has been out there doing it, and we've requested the rest of the kits to do the rest of the testing. So be happy to answer any questions. Heath can answer any questions.
And the deadline for them to request is still December 1st.
It's December 1st.
Right.
How many requests received?
11.
11.
And it was 77 letters that went out,
Yes,
something
ma'am.
like that, is that right? Okay. All right.
So are there any findings that you've seen that concern you, or is that something that you could share?
We've not seen any results back yet.
Okay.
We're still waiting on the results.
Well, the water testing.
You know, if we've had anybody appointed to the environmental board yet?
Have we had anybody appointed to the board?
Environmental board, we talked about people in the area off of the 4 major roads, having a representative sit in on the environmental board.
I don't think so. I don't think that occurred. I know that EAB met last week, right?
Yes. Commissioner Reeves, I was unaware we were doing that. I will tell you that we did meet last Thursday. Matter of fact, Mr. Kane and Mr. Jones gave a great presentation about an update on the water testing program to the board. And the board is looking to expand on a comment that was made when they gave the presentation here about having a joint meeting, possibly, or at least having the EAB do a meeting somewhere out there and invite citizens. And I think they would extend an invitation to the members of the county commission as well. And I believe, Chairman Dalrymple, you may be getting a call, if you haven't already received one, from Chair Montgomery about that.
But I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, the
because
intent was to simply have people living on one of those 4 roads around the area have a seat as a participant to maybe announce any concerns that they have with it. They talk about within the community.
We can certainly look at that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Anything? Okay. All right, the county manager's monthly report?
Yes, ma'am. The ongoing projects, Sam Lee Park, the architect and staff go before the TRC on Thursday to go over the preliminary plans. Hopefully we'll get a good grade on Thursday and not have to have a lot of changes. And once we know that planning and zoning and building inspectors are good with our plans, we'll be doing final design and going out to bid. The Hale Center, Tim Sherman's plans should be finished any time now. And hopefully once we take a look at the preliminary plans, he'll go through that same process and have this out to bid by the end of the year. Other items, it appears that Friday, January 29th is our best date for the retreat workshop. This is another item we're handing to Danielle. So she's going to be busy the next couple months. So she'll be planning our retreat and workshop with the chair. So if you have any items that you would like to discuss, feel free to discuss it with Danielle, myself, or the chair. In the report, they have building inspections, community development, tax report, and you have a list of accomplishments that our fellow has achieved through her first 6 months Hard to believe she's been here 6 months already. Time is flying by. Upcoming events, as was stated, next Monday night is the Farm City Banquet at 6 o'clock. Offices here are closed on the 26th and the 27th. Our next regular scheduled meeting is December 7th, and has become tradition now. Our meeting conflicts with the Sanford Growth Alliance Christmas Parade, or Sanford's Christmas Parade, whoever's putting it on now. And Ms. Lee has asked if y'all would like to start this at 3 o'clock next time instead of 4, so we can get out of the way of all the Christmas revelers that will be here, trying to use our parking lot to watch the Christmas parade. So we just put that out there to see if the board wanted to start the meeting early. We can go ahead and start it at 4 and just hopefully get out before 6 o'clock when things start getting very interesting.
Parade starts at 7.
Parade starts at 7, but people start showing up in our parking lot 5:30, 6 o'clock to set up and do whatever they do to get ready for the parade.
Are you asking for a motion?
Well, I'm asking for discussion or whatever the board, wants to do on the 7th. We're going to talk about it looks like now with since y'all voted on the refunding to start it, we'll need to meet on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I move we start at 3 o'clock.
Okay. All right, any discussion or questions?
I won't be able to make it.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Okay, and then we'll still have the 4 o'clock meeting on the 21st, just to make sure everybody's clear on that.
Yes, ma'am. The 21st will probably end up being our public hearing on the refunding.
Right, okay.
So that's what we're anticipating. We think that's worthwhile to make sure that we have a meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Presentation of State of Lee County report.
Danielle has to set that up, so we'll shoot over Carrie's head there. And this is another one of her projects that she has done. And as you remember, we started doing a State of the County report probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a good tool for the commissioners and staff to use to go out into the public and tell the public what's going on in the county and what our organization is doing. Will that work, or do you have to stand there? It's up here. For some reason it's not working. They may not have it.
It should work on that one. It was
There we go.
It was not a PowerPoint.
Thank you. All right. Start out with the county profile, our demographics in 2014 with our population at 59,536. Our projected population in 2019 is 62,623. And I think that's a number that Don helped Danielle come up with, because it doesn't necessarily agree with the state demographer. So we're back to having problems with our estimate of our county population, which seems to be a norm between not only the county but the city and the state. Median age 38. Unemployment rate at this time was 7.8%. Our median home value is pretty much steady at $131,300, and the median household income at $43,150. And on the right, there's some budget information, what our total tax base is. We're getting close to $5 billion. Our tax rate at the time this was done was 72 cents. Of course, it's now 79.5, and one penny generates roughly $478,943. So, and we got to remember, this is really going over the 2014-15 year. So the tax rate was changed on in the 2015-16 year. So That's why you see that difference there. And this really corresponds with the audit that you're going to get at the next meeting. The major issues we listed were land use issues. Obviously, there's been many. Economic development continues to be a major issue. We're always affected by the state budget, what's going on in education and funding capital for state departments. And state departments mainly being the courthouse, folks associated there. Land use, coal ash, oil and gas exploration and mining. I don't really need to go over all this because I think we've already done this. So this is something we share more when we use this presentation to other groups. The comprehensive land use plan update. I'm happy to report that the land use plan update RFQ went out last week. Thanks to Marshall for getting that out. And so I think it's out 5 or 6 weeks before we get our proposal back. So this is obviously a critical thing to do, which is updating the 2020 comprehensive plan. Economic development, we like to show this spreadsheet to show us, where we stand around local counties, where we've been, the last 4 or 5 years. At the height of the recession, we were at 14.3%, and our unemployment in January 2015 was down to 8%. Our reliance on manufacturing obviously keeps our unemployment rate a little bit higher than everybody else's. Here are our big employers. Lee County Schools ranks #1, and then you can see the rest. Caterpillar probably now is probably creeping up that chart there. The Sanford Area Growth Alliance, we hadn't been involved in this group very long, as of July 1st, so we felt that was important to give an update on Saga. Lee County contributes $190,000 a year to Saga, and Saga has formed its organizational structure and leadership team, and they really have come a long way since they started. If you really think about, basically they had to start from scratch. And of course, we wanted to toot our own horn about some positive collaborations that we've gotten involved in the Buggy Factory, which if you haven't been over there, you might want to go. It's really getting close. I know the employees are getting excited, and there's a lot of talk about that. And even outside the county, folks that are here, what we're doing at the Buggy Factory, are pretty amazed that we could get all these groups together to go into one building. So I told some folks last week at the School of Government about it, and I got a feeling that we'll be a poster child for collaboration and economic and community development together. And we continue to have discussions with Chatham and Harnett County about economic development, especially in the areas of agriculture. And our chair continues to lead that charge there. I know this is kind of a strong statement, but we have some uncertainty in revenue streams. Met with the DSS and health and senior services department heads today, and our revenue streams are all over the board. Trying to figure out what we're going to get with the budget being passed late. It really affects us, and we already know that there's some cuts to DSS that we're going to have to absorb, and there could be some more cuts in the future. And there we talk about the tax rate increase. Education, we're still trying to keep everybody aware we're not really getting our share of the lottery that we should be getting by law. So the lottery funds were capped at $100 million. It's up to $192 million what the counties should be sharing. So we get I think it's $750,000 a year in lottery money right now. Roughly. We should be getting twice that amount. If they had to fund at what the original law was passed. So, and what that does is it puts more pressure on the property tax to fund the bonds for the community college and then the issues facing the school system. So they keep it to fund the state-supported education and transfer basically, responsibility to us financially in the education area. CCC bonds, Taylor Hobbs has offered to come to the next meeting to give us an update on the bonds. If y'all would like to hear from him, he's the architect for the college. I told Bud that that's probably something we need to do. He'll give the timetable and where we stand with that. I have met with them and talked to them. They have concerns about the health sciences building from a budgetary impact right now, because one of the things that they've decided to do is move the dental program there. So there's some cost associated with that. Yes, sir, you're looking at me funny.
No, I would like to know if they have factored in energy conservation in these buildings, because as everyone knows here, Lee County Southern Lee High School is the most expensive building to heat and cool.
That would be a good question for
Yes, well, that's
for Mr. Hobbs, and I would tell you that yes, he has done that in all the other buildings he has designed for CCCC, and he did the library in Chatham County. He did the health sciences building that's in Harnett County, and both of them have energy efficient issues in each building.
Could you ask them to send the summary in advance so that we might formulate whatever questions or concerns we have?
Sure. Can do that. We've already talked about the county courthouse operations and the need for additional property around there to house the increasing size of the district attorney's office and the clerk of court's office, and probation is going to be growing too. So, which is kind of funny. If all these things are growing, why isn't our population growing faster? I don't know, it's just a question. So, kind of something we'd like to ask the demographer. If you haven't been to the basement of the courthouse and gotten a tour of the backup PSAP or the Emergency Operations Center, you should contact Shane and go see it. It is very impressive. The city has been in there. We had to take down the PSAP at the city and boot up the backup PSAP, so they got to operate it for a week, and I know it went extremely well. So it's running and it's doing well, and of course the sheriff is occupying 2 of those terminals on a daily basis, and his folks love it. There's Clyde Ryan Drive Extension. I don't know about y'all, but I've driven on that road recently. I cannot navigate that corner at 55 miles an hour. I tried. I was almost in the ditch, so I wish they would lower that. Stanley Nature Park, that is what that looks like now without the building. And if you haven't been out there, you should go out there. It's quite a shock when the first time you go out there and you don't see the old water plant there. Here's some of our county finance information. You're going to see more of this in the audit in a couple weeks, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But I will just say that we have weathered the recession very well. We've come out with our fund balance intact and doing well going forward. Actual revenues, our ad valorem taxes now make up 60%. If I were to show you a chart, over 10 years, you would see that percentage grow every year. You would also see the local option sales tax percentage grow every year, and then you would see intergovernmental going down. So that pie has changed quite a bit over the years. So there's some more financials. The actual expenditures, if you include the debt service, education nearly makes up 45% to 50% of our budget now. So it's big. And then human services. So you know, DSS, Health Department, aging and mental health. That's where our expenditures are. Outstanding debt, we talked a little bit about this tonight, but most of it is in the COPS, and then the installment notes, and almost all of that is school debt. Very little left that's not school debt. Financial highlights, county's total debt decreased over that year period by 5.8%, or $4.3 million. At the close of the fiscal year, unassigned fund balance for the general fund was $8.2 million, or 13.5%. So that continues to grow, and we have a good bond rating, and our expenditures were low that year. I have to give some kudos to Mary and her group. Our real property tax collection rate is stellar, and of course we were helped, you know, in the vehicles by the state taking over vehicles, but that still doesn't mean, you know, they don't have a job to do, which they do, and they do a very good job of collecting our property taxes now. And that 98.6% rate is a good rate. Our fund balance has been pretty level considering what we've been through in the recession. Total debt per capita has gone down. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So that's our PowerPoint presentation, and the paper report will be ready here pretty soon. That was called filler.
Good information. Any questions? Okay.
And we've already been over to the December meeting schedule, so I'm finished, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, let's go through the commissioner comments, and then we'll take a break before the public hearings, if that's okay with everybody. Mr. Reeves?
Yes. I just want to say that Mr. Downey, with the environmental piece, the board, all I'm looking for is for the individuals living on each one of the 4 roads that surround the Chara property. They have an opportunity to come in and present whatever concerns they have. They don't have to be members, but you know, it's just like the one person initially who applied for the water to be tested. That individual may have some concerns that he doesn't feel comfortable with without an invitation. And I just think that we ought to give these individuals in that area every opportunity to bring forth their concerns. Is all I'm suggesting to this board.
And I don't know if it's appropriate to respond, but I would tell you part of the other discussion that they had Thursday night was to continue through the outreach program and to do exactly that. So
okay.
I think that would be exactly the target that they would be aiming for.
All right. And we like to hear what they do have.
Just for information, I think it was Tuesday this past week, I received a call from Fire Chief at Cumnock, Northview. Seemed to still have some traffic problems out with U421 there in the intersection. I think he told me he had 21 trucks turned around in his parking lot in a convoy. So I called Marty Tillman from Division, and Marty emailed me back, said he would be out there either Thursday or Friday this past week and see what they could do to help alleviate that situation.
Yeah, I had somebody approach me this past week too. They're still having trouble.
They're having problems.
And it is confusing.
It's terribly
when you're on the
confusing.
old 421 and you're coming into Cumnock and you're trying to go north on the well, when it's not bypass or whatever the old 421 is. That is just a poor design.
It is. You don't know where you're going. If you're not from here, you don't know where you're going. It's easy to get turned around.
They're gonna have is all those trucks are damaging their
It is.
pavement structure out there.
Okay. All right, we'll keep on that. Anything?
And I told Mr. Crumpton that I'd received calls about 2 pieces of property that are gonna be auctioned off, and was asked, if the county would be interested. One being the old Sanford Fire Station, and then the piece of property out beside the McKinney House in front of Southern Lee, just to make everyone aware. So,
And they've indicated they're gonna auction that property.
Both of
possibly.
them.
yeah.
Is that part of the McSwain estate?
Okay.
Just a couple things. Just want to make everyone aware of the 90th anniversary at the library on tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I'd like to have all of you all support for the library tomorrow. And also I pray that you all pray for those persons over in Paris, the tragic thing that took place there. And so I ask that you all keep those people in your prayers.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, on Veterans Day, I went out with Bill Stone. They had 17 of our young commissioners go up to the Betsy Jeff Penn 4-H camp up outside of Reedsville. And those youngsters went through a confidence course as well as leadership development.
Great.
And the camp staff were doing a heavy sale on trying to draft them into being camp volunteers next year.
Okay.
They were quite impressed with the kids. The kids were extremely competitive as well as teamwork. I mean, they were oriented around teamwork, and the staff were just amazed at the quality of these youngsters we had us there. But it was fun.
Great. Okay. I guess all I have, we had a good meeting with the group that we're trying to get together once a quarter with representatives from the schools and the college and Saga and us and the city and the town, just to stay in communication with each other. And talked a lot about the buggy factory and the CCCC projects. But it's just good to sort of get together and eat lunch and just talk about upcoming things. But good positive meeting. And I just encourage everybody to attend the Farm City Week banquet if you can. And I guess happy Thanksgiving, which is incredible to say that, but I guess happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Let's take about a 20-minute recess and convene back at 6 o'clock for our public hearings. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order, and continue on with our public hearings. Our first one is a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance instituting a temporary moratorium on oil and gas development and mining within Lee County. And I'll defer to our council.
In order to make sure that we're complying procedurally with all of the requirements surrounding the moratorium, we need to hold another public hearing, and this will be considered the first reading, and the board will need to vote on the first reading.
Okay. Okay, we'll take comments first. We take comments first, correct? Yeah, right. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing on the ordinance for the moratorium. And I would like to ask anyone that would like to speak in favor of the moratorium, if you come up to the podium and give your name, address, and remember 3 minutes. Okay,
Good evening.
good evening.
My name's Dave Turner. I live at 1746 Daiquiri Turn. And I've been a resident of Lee County for about 9 years now. And I'm here to express my support for a moratorium on mining and gas exploration and oil. I've learned a lot in the last few months that I never knew about the Unified Development Ordinance, about zoning districts, about the permitted use matrix, and I'll be very brief. That I just want to point out a few reasons why I think the revision is very important, and I think it's also urgent. In Lee County today, as you well know, mining and quarries is permitted in all 17 zoning districts. Using the permitted use matrix, there are 11 districts in which you can't have a duplex dwelling. 0 in which you can't have a quarry. Child and youth services can only be permitted in 7 of the 17. An antique shop is permitted in only 8 of the 17. A bakery, 7. A bookstore is permitted in 7. A farmer's market is permitted in only 3. Yet 17 are permitted use for a quarry. A grocery store, 7. An art gallery, 5. There are 12 districts in our county where you can have a quarry, but you can't have a skating rink. There are 12 districts where you can have a quarry, but you can't manufacture and sell pottery. There's 10 districts where you can have a quarry, but you can't have a restaurant. And most shocking of all, there's actually 1 district in the county where you can have a quarry, but you can't build a new church. So I think this just begs the question that we must re-examine the Unified Development Ordinance. We must re-examine the permitted use matrix and rebalance the way that we in Lee County look at land use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
My name is Keely Wood. I live at 363 Angel Road in Sanford. I am dropping off this evening a petition that was gathered by Terica Luxton with over 1,400 signatures on forced fracking, forced pooling, I should say. We are also sending it to the MEC for their use as well. The link is also provided so you can go on and read any kind of comments people have written on the petition. Thank you for considering a fracking moratorium resolution in order to learn more about how the gas and oil industry will affect our county. North Carolina should have requested a health assessment test like other states have done, like New York and Maryland. Let's remember some of the quick facts. Our county will be responsible for wear and tear on roads. The North Carolina DOT report on gas industry in North Carolina include inadequate pavement structures, roadway widths, capacity, and site distances as issues. Each drill pad uses industrial stadium lighting, hundreds of truckloads of water, chemicals, and sand pounding the same routes. One drill can use over 6 to 8 million gallons of water. Rules of a 650-foot setback are in place. And to give you an idea, if you've never visited a drill unit, 650 feet is approximately a football field. This is taken in Pennsylvania. At 650 feet, you will be able to hear the drilling that lasts for hours, 24/7 for 30 days. You'll have the air quality affected. You'll have your health is affected if you live near one of these drills. A 650-foot setback rule is also in place for wastewater pits. Even though these wastewater pits are about a football field in length as well, and the rules really have not been established. Thank you for giving us all your time and learning more about fracking and the industry. And thank you for being good stewards of Lee County and the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Debbie Hall, 957 Cumnock Road, and I'm here tonight in support of the moratorium. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak. I'm asking each of you to vote in favor of the moratorium to protect the citizens of Lee County, especially those who live on split estates and those who could be force pulled. Looking at those pictures that Keely just showed, that thought that that would be next door or on my property is beyond my comprehension. It gives me hope for my community to hear about this moratorium. We have worried since we first learned about the industry's plans to extract gas from our community. And the more we learned, the more we read, the more we worried, and the more fearful we have been. So this is our first glimmer of hope that someone is listening to our fears and our concerns about where we live and what happens to where we live. From the very beginning, many of us have said slow down to the General Assembly, slow down, slow down, slow down, with this rush to allow fracking in our state. And that, to me, is what this moratorium does. It gives us a chance in North Carolina, most importantly in Lee County, to slow down. Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? Okay, opposed?
My name is Keith Clark. I live at 212 Acorn Drive with the Squirrels. I am opposed to the way fracking has been proposed and developed by a legislature. It was short-sighted, based on greed, both personal and political, and unwise in the manner in which it's done. I support energy independence and might support fracking if it weren't for such honors, the complete lack of respect for local government, local people's opinion, and particularly the absolutely amazing idea that one who would represent himself as the epitome of protecting freedom and liberty would take away people's property rights. But I am a little concerned about another angle here. City of Asheville owned a water system. Legislature wanting to move that water system to a regional water authority. Legislature passed that bill. Asheville and some numerous other groups sued. Court of Appeals ruled. Legislature creates cities and counties, and we can do what we want. And I'm not I feel that what we're doing here is we're creating an opportunity for people to vent their frustration, but we're not really doing anything to save the problem. And that concerns me because people are losing trust in government. And I happen to pay a lot of attention to a presidential primary where everything's going to be fantastic, wonderful, and terrific, and it'll just happen. And I am very much concerned about creating false expectations about what will happen in regard to fracking and whether it speaks well of us to not be more realistic. I certainly would not think that under the state's current constitution, which doesn't recognize any rights for cities, we'd be well to plan not to spend any money to defend this ordinance in terms of fracking. And with that being said, I would like to not understand the reason for it if you know you can't enforce it.
Okay.
Jean Cashin, 1191 Henley Road, and I am against the moratorium and any change to the zoning matrix residential agriculture for special use for it. And I want to quote an article out of the Sanford Herald last week, and it's an article that was done quoting Assistant Secretary Tom Reeder of the Department of Environmental Quality. And Dr. Reeder, in this article that was in the Herald last week, states that news stories have been misrepresenting the information regarding the industry. And he goes on to state that environmental groups are using fear-mongering tactics to pursue their political agendas. He covers not only the fracking, but he covers coal ash and several other items that are in this article. So I presume that all of you have or had access to the Sanford Herald, and as I have asked at a previous public hearing, that you listen to our state employees, whether it is Assistant Secretary Tom Reeder of the Department of Environmental Quality, or whether it is Dr. Ken Taylor, who is our state geologist. They're the experts in the field. They're the ones that have the real facts, that have the truth and the information. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Estelle Bullard. I live on 107 Pleasure Lane in Sanford. And I would like to ask, where do we get our gas and oil? How do they get it out of the ground? And how many people has died from it? I think the oil and gas industry would benefit our county. It would create jobs, which is a lot of people are needing. There are all kinds of contracts out there that people, landowners can get. When we signed up for the, several years ago, we had our own contract, and we told them what we could do, they could do or not do to our land. And I know at least 3 of y'all have own land, and I'm sure you don't want anyone telling you what you can do with your land. So, And we also have soil conservation that we can go to for decisions on our land. And some of our land was inherited, and they trusted us to take care of it, just like they did. We are responsible enough to take care of our land, and it's a shame we have to fight for that right. And we don't need someone to come in and tell us what we can do with it, and it's just not right. I don't want to pass this burden down to my children or grandchildren. So if you would keep in mind how some of us have worked hard to get our land and pay taxes on it, and I ask you to vote no on this moratorium and zoning changes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'd be glad to take.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak against? Or would anybody like to speak for that wasn't here? I don't know. Oh. No, come on up. Yeah, we're doing for or against. If you just state which side you're on. I know.
Okay, my name is John Wagner, and I live in Chatham County. And I just wanted to encourage you to vote for the moratorium. I think it's really critical that this county take the time to look at all the issues that are involved. And there's no way to address it properly without having that additional time, because this is an extremely serious issue that's going to affect Lee County for decades and decades. And there's no reason to rush this, and there's every reason to think it through and look at the issues carefully. So I encourage you to vote for the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Public hearing is now closed. Okay, now we need to vote on the first reading. Now that we've concluded the public hearing, any discussion?
I just yeah, go ahead.
You go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
Vice Chair. I think that Mr. Clark spoke of that very reason that the state has enacted a rules on moratorium, and I don't believe this will hold regardless. I don't want to give people false hope out there that this will actually hold if somebody were to challenge it. I don't believe we are going to be ready to proceed legally even if they do. What concerns me, I don't have a problem with the board going through proper channel to, what's the word, give our concerns to the state. Just as we run our county, there's a certain hierarchy of where you bring your problems to. I think our legislatures should take our concerns to the state and let them know our concerns. The reason being is that, we put our Tarpo Road things in there, and there may be some consequences to what we do in terms of things that we are asking for to be considered for future development may get pushed on down the line. Maybe this talk has already started, maybe it hasn't, but I think that needs to be thought about and a concern.
You think so you're saying you think there'd be backlash from the legislature if we would do this with road projects?
There's possibilities. That is one. There are others. I'd say they're going to happen, but there is discussion. I'm just throwing that out there. If there was true weight, and that'd be one thing, but I want to make sure that people out there understand if they truly want change, they got to go up to that legislature and really push them for for change. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but I don't believe that this moratorium will stand on any legal ground because the state has enacted their rules accordingly. But I'm just giving you what the talk is. Yeah? Okay.
You know, it's sad that we get punished for something that we believe in.
No, I have no argument there.
And I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate that. But it's a shame that we get punished for something that we believe in. And certainly, if I may, I want to make a motion that we institute a temporary moratorium.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor.
I think motion is to vote on the first.
I mean, what?
Yeah, to vote on the first reading.
Vote on the
To
first
approve
reading.
the first reading.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Are we treating this as the first reading
Mhm.
tonight?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Any more discussion?
Well, one thing I want to say is, and I apologize and hate Ms. Bullard left, but the concerns that she voiced are the exact concerns that I have as far as to me being a private landowner and me being told what I can and cannot do with my land from a forced pooling aspect. And someone being able to set a drilling rig up on one piece of property and someone a mile away wanting their land drilled for natural gas or oil, and mine be in the middle, and I have no control over that. And that is giving up my property rights, which people are speaking in favor of, and I totally respect that. But that is the way I feel about it from a forced pooling standpoint. I'm losing my right to the land that I've worked my whole life for and paid for, just as you are for what you've inherited and et cetera. And I'm voting for this moratorium so that this is really looked at and researched. There may not be anything that can be done at this point. And I do respect the university's experts and value their opinion. And I've been doing my research, but I still have concerns from the water quality aspect. And this buys time, and I'm praying that somebody takes it serious at the legislature and really looks at this. And I don't know that that's going to happen.
Well, Madam Chair, members of the board, I simply want to tell you that I respect each side, each view. But I think it's equally important for the majority of this board to decide whether they want people to know how we really feel about Lee County and the fact that we've been left out of the process in total. We've pretty much been dictated to, regardless of whether you're a property owner or not. And so you will participate, you won't object to it, and you have no rights. And I understand the law to mean that we probably don't, but that doesn't take place until it's challenged. So until then, I feel very strongly about voting for it so that people at least know in advance they can look online or get a copy in print to know how we actually feel for this happening to Lee County. We just don't totally agree.
I'm going to express the same sentiments Commissioner Reeves. The county has had no input at all from the beginning, and now we have an opportunity to at least express how we feel about it.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with the board expressing anything. I just think there's that certain channels that is expected. We expect our employees to go through certain channels, and that's the reason why I think it may be looked unfavorably as how we are choosing to go forward.
So do you feel like we're not following the proper protocol? I mean, because that's what I'm hearing you say, and maybe me as a new commissioner, I don't know what that protocol is, so that would be my negligence if that's the case, but I'd appreciate some guidance.
I don't think there is a protocol. If it was, I didn't use it to start with.
Well, we elect representatives to represent our area that we send to the state that then, now I know we have 2 elected officials that are in the minority and they don't have as much voice, but that is the protocol that I believe is expected to be followed, that our representatives represent us in Raleigh and voice our opinions and concerns. Like it or not, we are here at the pleasure of the state. You know, unfortunately, I mean, this is how it all set up when we used to be magistrates and now commissioners. And so there is a certain things that they follow in terms, you know, just like if my employees had a problem, you know, you go to the manager goes to the owner, and vice versa. Certain people don't like to be skipped past and over, and that may come back and hurt some aspects. Whether it will or will not, I'm just putting that in discussion as thought.
Would you agree we may get the same treatment whether we do or don't?
No.
Why not? We've already received it.
Well,
we've already been overlooked. We already
that doesn't mean
denied
you
it.
won't be overlooked on other issues as well. I mean, I can't say you won't.
Right.
But maybe there may be more aggressive things.
You had representations, a lot of it was in the majority, and that's where we got to where we are now.
Madam Chair, if I could add, I take umbrage with the statement that we've had nothing to say. Back in 2012, they started the hearings. I've attended many of them. I can tell you, I've seen Ms. Hall, I've seen Ms. Wood, and many of them, and I failed to see most of you there. So I want to share with you that we've had input, we've had say. No, that's fine, Commissioner. That's good. Plug your ears, get under the table, that's fine. But I'm saying we've had a say, and there's been a process, and the Mining and Energy Commission went out of their way to go to sites and talk to the, fine.
Let him finish. Go ahead.
No, I'm kidding.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Do you want to expound any? Okay. Before we take the vote, I do appreciate everybody that came to speak for and against. And as Commissioner Reeves said, I respect everybody's opinion. We're here to represent everyone. And this is a difficult situation made even more difficult by the legislature taking away local control. And I was at a lot of the meetings that the Mining Energy Commission held, and the two large ones here and in Chapel Hill, and have, as Commissioner Sloan said, done a lot of research on all sides. And as far as trying to make some inroads with the legislature on County Assembly Day this past May, I had the opportunity to talk with Senator Berger and tried to talk to him about this very thing, and was told that it was too complicated and I couldn't understand it. That's the way he answered the citizens of Lee County. So we have tried. For leaders that, again, as I said before, for leaders that say that they're for small government and that the strongest government is at the local level and that's the voice that needs to be heard, they certainly are contrary to that with their actions. I want to thank our staff for the work that they have done. Worked hard this past week on this draft, or this actual, what you have before you. I think that it is a responsible document, that it does not, as Commissioner Smith said in the past, poke the legislature in the eye. It respects their position to Dr. Connect's concerns, but at the same time, we're elected to serve the citizens of Lee County, not the state legislature. And for the citizens that are opposed to this moratorium, as Commissioner Sloan said, this is not an anti-fracking document. It is a study of what fracking would mean to Lee County and how we go about making it fit. And speaking to lots of other industry as well. So we don't take this lightly, and we're trying to be fair. And the way I see it is this board, along with other boards in other counties in the state, are actually trying to do the job that the legislature should have done, which was take politics out of it and stick to the facts and listen to the people at the local level. So we've got a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor of,
I
yes.
just want to say that I certainly don't totally disagree with what Commissioner Connect has to say. I don't disagree with that at all. But I do find it difficult to accept the fact that the legislature sent down, I think it was last December, the notice that we were going to get coal ash whether we wanted it or not. Yeah. So, there comes a point in time that if you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't believe in yourself or the right to say, you might do it, but I don't agree, then what good is it for us to have a board? Doesn't matter who the majority is. It's just that I feel like that's our right to make that decision. And until, whether they get the permit, they get it through the state. If somebody files for a permit, this board will have to address it at that point in time. But right now, I feel better knowing that they know exactly how the majority of this board feels about fracking. The fact that we had no input. We don't have any opportunity to say yay or nay in terms of how you treat our county when you come here. Those things have been removed, as I understand it. And all we're saying is, we'd like for you to know in advance, so if you do come, at least you know how we feel. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of voting in favor of the first reading of the temporary moratorium, ordinance on oil and gas development activities and mining in Lee County. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Can I just make a quick thing?
Sure.
The gentleman came and talked about before, right? I don't think this pertains to that, does it? It does not. Huh?
It's mining.
I mean, I thought there was one with the quarry you're talking about, the newest one, that it would.
That wouldn't affect it.
That's what, so I just wanted them to understand that it wouldn't affect.
That one is in process.
That one's in process. So I think you may have a concern with that new one that, so.
No, I'm aware of it.
Okay, just making sure you know that.
Okay. All right. Moving on to.
Excuse me 1 second.
Sure.
When's the next, what we do, another vote at our next meeting or what?
December 7th.
December 7th?
No public hearing.
Like what?
No public hearing.
No public hearing,
Just a second reading.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we'll have the second public hearing of the night on Project Flint. And we'll let Mr. Joyce kick us off. Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of an economic development project and ask for your support and approval of an incentive investment for an existing industry expansion. This is referred to as Project Flint. The expansion would be in two phases. There's an equipment phase, an expenditure of $20 million, and a real estate phase where they would add to their building. That would be about an $8 million expansion. There would only be 15 jobs connected with this project. The average wage for those jobs is about $15 an hour. I think, just an aside, this is what we are seeing more and more, is that as manufacturing in the United States has had to become much more efficient in order to compete with low-cost labor all over the world. We have more machines doing the work and fewer people doing the work. So formerly, when we have come with a request for a $30 million expenditure, there have been a lot more jobs attached. There are not that many jobs with this project because these are very efficient pieces of equipment. So I want to also say that the Growth Alliance Economic Development Committee has reviewed this request. We have provided information to the Executive Committee of the Growth Alliance, and both groups support this request. For the company, they have been an excellent corporate citizen in our community. They have provided very competitive wages and benefits to their employees. They have been, the company has been active in civic affairs and philanthropy here. The management of the company has roots in Lee County. Also want to make the point that we are competing with another community in North Carolina and also a community out of state. The incentive investment that they have requested is in your packet. It is in two phases, and it would be a 60% incentive investment on the machinery phase and on the real estate phase. So it actually, both would be 5 years, which is customarily our guideline, but they would overlap for 1 year. So this would be the machinery would be purchased first, and then the real estate would be expanded second. So they would overlap. So the total would be over 6 years. And if there are any questions about that portion, I'd be glad to answer any questions. I know there's another portion of this request that we're going to talk about also.
Okay, any questions on this part?
Has the city already moved on this?
The city has approved their portion of the request.
Okay.
Is this the city's same?
The city's approval was at a 70% rate for 6 years.
Was there any other contingents attached to this 60?
Yes.
There was?
Yes, sir. We reduced the incentive amount from the 70% that they requested to 60 because our incentive includes a transfer of business personal property valued at $100,000 to them.
Okay.
Give me a second, please.
Sure.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, with discussion, I'm going to move that we approve the request as presented.
Well, we still need to go through the hearing first. We need to do the hearing.
You have to
first.
open the public hearing.
That's okay.
Yeah, I see it there.
I'll stand by if anybody else wants to speak.
Do you have anything else, Andre?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Excuse me. Okay, let me call the public hearing to order on Project Flint. Anyone like to speak in favor of the project?
Keith Clark, 212 Acorn Drive, Sanford. Sure the squirrels are still there. I want to speak in favor of this project as a Republican. I'm a Republican. I believe there is a trade-off between liberty and equality. And I side on the side of freedom and liberty and do not want to sacrifice that for equality. I'm a conservative. I believe that small government is a better way to operate than large government. I believe in local government as opposed to national government and state government. We've seen the abuses that can happen when that is there. So and I've been a Republican a long time, I'm delighted tonight to speak in behalf of this because it increases the tax base. And as a taxpayer, I'd like to have lower taxes, not higher taxes, and we need to increase them. Now, there are a couple of very false arguments that are used against these. One is that they'll come anyway if we don't. There's no proof for that. There's no proof. What we do know is we've been through a drought. And we know that during that time the policy was to not do it, and we didn't have any, and we don't have access to the records to even know how many we passed on. Secondly, there's a proposition that we're somehow giving tax money, our tax money, to the recipient. Well, it's their part of their tax money which they are getting back. It doesn't affect my tax money, except that there's a higher tax, more revenue coming in this case 40% for 5 years and 100% thereafter, that it affects my tax rate. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a Republican position. Nikki Haley in the state of South Carolina kick our butt every day, and every month she sends a fifth of liquor to Senator Berger and says, "Thank you very much." So I want to invite all of you, to vote as Republicans tonight and vote in behalf of this expansion to our tax base and opportunity in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Okay, anybody else like to speak in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Finch.
Didn't make it my address, too.
My goodness.
I'm Bob Finch. I'm speaking Sanford, North Carolina. I'm speaking after the Democrats. We're all in favor of growth. Regardless of party, we want growth in Lee County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition to the project? Okay, I declare the public hearing closed. Okay.
Motion now.
Okay.
Approve and send the request as presented.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, there being no further business here, we need to adjourn this meeting. No, we're not going to adjourn. We're going to recess.
And reconvene.
In the wicker room.
Golden Wicker Room for a joint meeting with the Board of Education.
Okay. Wasn't sure if we were doing the adjourn and then, okay. Need a motion to adjourn, to recess. Okay, all those in favor of recess to the wicker room? Aye. Okay, thanks.